Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Yo, what's up, Giants fan? Welcome to the BBO NYG Podcast. I'm Mike, that's Jules, that's Sean. Happy Easter, everyone. We had another nice week off. But now it's back to business, man. We got to start talking about the draft and what's going around in the NFL. Where do we start?
What better way to start it off than letting people know that thank God the Baltimore Ravens made the mistake.
Bro, they're giving him so much money too. 15 mil guaranteed. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We win another 3 in incentives.
Yeah, 13 million signing bonus for Odell Beckham Jr., which is his agent deserves a raise. He's like Ari Gold from Entourage, man. He deserves everything he fucking gets, man. Terrific job, man. Because nobody else was giving him that fucking money. How come nobody's complaining? You know, if the Giants gave him 15 million, all hell would have broke this. Everybody would be like, why are you paying him this fucking much money? Why are you doing this? You're spending all our cap. Not a peep out of the Ravens fans. Nobody else is saying anything. I think our fan base is just toxic, man. Toxic.
Yeah, I'm going to take it another level too. Could you imagine if this was Cooper Kupp that was in this situation, right? And he got paid this much money? Yo, people would be going fucking ape shit. Like, oh my God, how did you get that much money? Go fucking crazy. But here comes Odell Beckham, who hasn't had a full season in how many years now? 4? Right? I mean, come on, bro. Like, I can't remember the last time this guy played a full season. And now he's going to the Ravens, who aren't known for throwing to their wide receivers. And he's going with Lamar Jackson. And all of a sudden, they're going to give him a guaranteed $15 million with an incentive of an additional 3. Like,
crazy.
I got a question about that. So Lamar obviously fucking requested a trade, wrote that whole long letter to Ravens fans, thanking them this and this and that. Now that Odell's on the team, has Lamar said anything about now being open to stay with the Ravens?
Wait.
Or is he...
Oh, I got this one for you.
Jules, go ahead, bro. Take the fucking
Not only is he like open to stay with the Ravens, apparently he was part of the reason how they got Odell to come in. And then literally on Easter night, Sunday night, he was out partying and live with Odell Beckham. So bro, okay, he's here to stay now. Let's go.
That's gonna work out great. He's at the club already. The first night
in the Super Bowl.
Come on, man. Come on. The second he overthrows Odell Beckham, he's going to throw a fucking tantrum on the sideline. When he overthrows him 5 times, forget about it. It's going to be
the second he overthrows him and like Odell like extends a little bit, all of a sudden he pops his hammy. He's out 4 weeks. You know what I'm trying to say? Lamar fucking runs too fast. He bops himself out for 3 weeks. Yeah, they're going to be the fucking shit show, that Ravens team. This might be the demise of Harbaugh there. That's what I think. Actually.
That's the first thing you said when you said about fucking Lamar Jackson being part of this. I was like, if this doesn't go excellently, Harbaugh might be fucking looking for another job.
Well, the Ravens are built like they're a run first team.
Yeah.
How does that play into like keeping Odell happy? And don't forget, you got Bateman on the outside of that team. He's a legit wide receiver. Decent number.
What about Mark Andrews?
Mark Andrews.
It's just like his number 1 target for the
right. His number 1 target.
Screw him. We don't care about him no more.
It's a lot of balls you got to throw around there.
I would imagine that Odell probably recognizes that if he's not in Act 2, if he's not in Act 3, he's the very end of Act 2 of his career, and he doesn't have much time left. He probably doesn't think that whatever team he's going to go to is going to feature him as like the number 1 option on the team, anyways. And maybe he was able to convince Lamar to convince the Ravens to give him a couple extra $1 million. That ended up in Baltimore, but is not going in with the expectations that he's going to be, 2016, the Giants' only fucking way to move the ball. So that may not be as much of a problem. What will be a problem, though, is injuries and if they're not winning ball games, because that's when fucking shit's can become a problem. Because I don't think that being in Baltimore is going to give Odell that same type of like notoriety that he looks for. LA, New York, like that's what he's interested in, is a fucking big fame, not like just NFL player. He wants to be iconic in a sense. Like he wants to be a super famous person.
John, he could have went to New York or LA, like you said. He could have went there, but he wanted the most money he could get. and the Ravens offered him that. So, I mean, do you really think he's such a team player? I mean, maybe he could have got like 10 or something with loaded with incentives with the Giants. Maybe they went there. Maybe the Jets, who he didn't even visit on Monday, if he really wanted to come back to New York. Sounded like he wanted the most money, and he got the most money from the Ravens, which is, I don't know if I really want that guy.
The one thing in his defense is with the Jets.
But I don't blame him.
The whole reason why he was going to the Jets was that he was thinking Aaron Rodgers was going to be there. And now this whole Aaron Rodgers thing doesn't seem like it might happen. It might happen. It might still.
Dragging on.
Who the hell knows?
Same thing every offseason, bro.
That's literally, that's literally what the whole Odell thing with the Jets fascination was. But if you look at this guy, and you're right, Mike, look, think about it. If it's about the money, right? He literally just played at Cleveland for a few seasons, and now he's going into that division with Deshaun Watson coming back with a full season under his belt, preseason, everything else. So he's going to be coming. Cincinnati owns that with Broadway Joe Burrow over there, right? Like fucking running that division. And then what? We're just going to count the Steelers out? Because you can never count that team out. Now with Mike Tomlin there, coach. So that's going to be a really interesting type of fucking division. And almost going to be like a bad boy division, if you would, right? Like, you have Odell, like, getting kicked off of airplanes. You got Deshaun Watson with all his mess. Like, yo, this is gonna be kind of fun. You got Broadway Joe talking shit because are the Bengals going to make him the highest paid quarterback? Who knows, right? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty coming out of that division. It's gonna be an interesting one to watch. That's for sure.
It's funny how you mentioned Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, like how his and Brett Favre's careers have followed such a similar track, fucking staying in Green Bay for such a long time. Then like the last few seasons, is he going to retire? Is he not going to retire? Then Favre actually ended up leaving for Minnesota and the Jets. And who knows what ends up happening with Aaron Rodgers. But it's funny how like similar, one Super Bowl, multiple visits, MVPs, stuff like that. How similarly their career trajectories are. We can only hope that Daniel Jones will have the same kind of trajectory as Eli Manning, where he wins a Super Bowl or two.
Well, you go to the Jets to die, John. That's what happens. That's your final resting place is in Green and in the middle.
I would think that because I don't remember how Brett Favre started his career. I don't think he was a year one starter. I'm pretty sure Brett was on the bench for a couple of seasons. Well,
he was.
He came over. Didn't he come over from a different team?
He got traded from Atlanta. He was in the Atlanta Falcons.
So he was on Atlanta. Was he behind like Jeff George or some shit? Or
that's crazy.
That's something around those lines.
Brett Favre wasn't drafted by the Packers, huh?
No, man. No. That's facts.
Wow. You just gotta you always seen him there in Green Bay. You always forget Atlanta had him.
Yeah.
Crazy. Atlanta just
that also probably predates me being like a huge NFL fan because Brett Favre started playing in the early mid-90s. When was he drafted?
Fuck, I'd have to Google it.
Yeah, I mean it's gotta be something like that. I'm gonna Google it now.
Honestly, that one slips my mind there. Right?
He's been out of the league for a long time already.
A long time, and he played a long time. So like literally, you got to figure. Gosh, at least 30 years ago. So my guess would be like 92-ish, 91 maybe. Remember that neighborhood if I had to guess?
91, bro. He got drafted by the Falcons in 91. Okay. Was with Green Bay from 92 to 2007, bro. He was there forever, bro. Jesus Christmas. Then he did a season with the Jets and 2 seasons with the Vikings, and that was it.
And don't forget, he had the sexual harassment thing with when he was on the Jets. So did a famous quarterback, Joe Namath, when he's going after Susie Colbert, poor Susie Colbert on ESPN. And then you're going to get Aaron Rodgers going to do some shit because he's going there. So watch out, ladies.
Not forget about your boy Deshaun Watson, you know what I'm saying? So,
watch out, ladies. Aaron Rodgers is coming to New York. It's crazy out there.
That's what I say. It's just exciting. But listen, like I said, to wrap it up with Odell and everything else, I'm happy he went to Baltimore. Seriously. He went there, and that's the end of it. And like, fuck it, this whole
until next year
circus. Yeah. Well, right. I mean, listen, he would honestly have to have some sort of season where he has like 70 catches for 1,000, like 6 touchdowns, something like that. And you know what? Then he could start making some noise next year again. But like, they give him all that money. The Ravens, to me, aren't that like ready to go. They're missing one piece type of Super Bowl team.
I know
that AFC is loaded. Their division is loaded. It's a crazy signing. It makes no sense. I don't know if that was to make Lamar happy. I don't know what that was. But like I said, thank God we don't have to talk about him with the Giants anymore. That's all I care.
I wish I knew for the next 12 months.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about like what kind of impact that a player can have for a team financially that has nothing to do with on the field stuff. Like you sign a guy like Odell, now you got a lot of merch that you're going to be selling. So I wonder how much of his salary is offset by the fact that he is such a big celebrity, such a big name in the game. Like maybe that's why they're able to do something like that, give him a little extra money. Maybe they go into the Jets or something like that. And it's just not enough too much like media and stuff to take away from whatever he was going to do there. But I'm just happy that we don't have to talk about him for 12 more months. That's about 50 episodes we can skip talking about Odell, which would be nice.
Well,
Did we play the Ravens this year? No, right?
Nah, we don't. But
All right, Odell,
some Giant fans,
brother.
some Giant fans are going to be buying that Baltimore Ravens jersey with Odell Beckham. You know it. You know those.
Listen, I'll be honest with
MetLife
you. I got to give it up to this fucking crazy, what'd you call it? What type of fan base do we have? Like toxic, right? You just mentioned it earlier. I got to give it to this was almost every one of the old Beckham fans and supporters. Once they saw that $15 million to $18 million price tag, they all shut the fuck up quick. That's all I know. You ain't nobody talking no more. It's kind of like, oh damn, okay.
Yeah, most of some. I seen some were like, "Oh, why don't you just give it to him?" Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like, oh, really?
Fucking
you want to send it back 4 years for Odell? Like, no, thank you. We're good.
Crazy, man. But maybe Odell Beckham didn't want to come to New York and play in the old stadium, but maybe he didn't know that we got a new stadium. We actually got new grass. I think, Jules, you set the picture of the turf. It looks very nice. It looks very nice green. It actually makes the stadium actually looks better than the dump that it usually is. You know what I'm saying?
So I'm colorblind. I can't really appreciate the greens because I don't see most shades of green. But I will say it was a striking image, the difference of what the field used to look like. And then when you sent the picture, I was like, wow, this is like a nice green that I can even appreciate as a colorblind fellow. So go Giants.
Listen, and it's supposed to be some sort of hybrid turf, like one of these new modern day type of things where it's like a grass but turf type feel. And it, doesn't have to have the same kind of maintenance that it would if it was 100% grass. And it's not this shit that they've been playing on for so many seasons. So look, guys, we can't use the excuse of injuries anymore, right? They went out there, they put the turf together, and that's it. It is what it is at this point in time, and we got to live with it. And hopefully it's for the best. Hopefully, it's not just looks. It's also something that performs well. This way we can keep our team healthy this year and actually make a good push.
Yeah, that as soon as the first injury happens, they'd be like, oh, the fucking turf, all that money you spent, and now, what's going to happen as soon as somebody gets injured. But
no doubt.
Injuries just part of the game. And it's just nice that after the stadium's been open since 2009, 2008, something like that. After so many years of so many injuries, leading the league in injuries so many times, that we're actually in a position where they invested some money in eliminating some of them to whatever degree that ends up happening. So thank you to John Mara and fucking the Johnson family for investing a few dollars in some fake grass.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank God.
We'd rather spend the money there than on Kenny Galladay.
Kenny Galladay should pay for it. You know what I'm saying? He should pay for the new fucking.
He's paid for the 10-yard line.
He didn't use it.
Kenny Galladay's not anywhere. Is he still on the street?
John, he's not getting another job, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Did everybody not see how slow he looked? He looked slow and he couldn't catch 5-yard slants. It's over for him. I think his career is actually over.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman ruined his career. Period. Stop.
He made him. He gave him a good life. He has all that fucking money.
Listen, you already paid him, so you don't need to play football no more. That's for damn sure.
I'd be kissing his ass. All right. So, besides that, some other news around Giants land came in over the week that we were off. We signed the veteran center, J.C. Hausener. He was at University of Alabama with Coach. He played for a few teams. I think Pittsburgh might have been one of them, but he's a veteran now. So I got him. Bredesen and Shane Lemieux are going to compete for that center job, apparently.
It really hurt that Nick Gates isn't part of this conversation, but it is what it is. We needed to add another body on the offensive line, especially at center, just to see Feliciano. We lost as well. I forgot where he went, but he's not on the team anymore either. So you got a few guys.
San Fran.
He's in San Fran. So we got a few guys that we're gonna have to kind of feel out in training camp and the preseason, see how they mesh together. But that I don't think that this means that they won't even in the first or second rounds go for an interior offensive lineman. I think they're They got to get that line to be a top 10 line, both running and passing, and we're gonna go fucking win a Super Bowl. So
Who you guys think is gonna get it? Me personally, I think Ben Bredesen's gonna get the starting job, but I'm kind of rooting for Shane Lemieux to get it. You know what I mean? Shane Lemieux, like he hasn't played because of stupid toe injuries, but I tell you, he's a beast on the offensive line. Who are you, Jules? Who are you rooting for?
I mean, rooting is one thing. So rooting, I would root for Lemieux, right? But who's going to get it? I honestly think it's going to really see who battles it out in camp. Like, I can't wait to see who comes in better shape, looks more aggressive, goes after it, really wants it. To me, it's an open job, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think it's very important. What about you, John?
So I think there's a good possibility that Bredesen and Lemieux both at the center and left guards going into the season. Just who plays where is going to be more of the question. I don't know how much experience Lemieux has playing center. I think Bredesen does have some limited, but some experience playing center. I don't know how that'll play out with the full.
Both do.
They both have. Okay, so
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I know they're both limited. They're both not like more guard first, but
yeah,
if you could play guard, you can likely play center as long as you got a head on your shoulders. When you got a quarterback like Daniel Jones behind you, I think that's going to help the transition for whatever player does take that starting role. If I was to bet on it in my mind's eye, I could see Bredesen as the left guard and Lemieux as the center. But obviously, something like this, either way it falls, you just can't be shocked. Even if they draft somebody in the first or second rounds, or maybe luckily the third round, who can steal one of those two positions too. I don't think any of those guys are locked in. Obviously, Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal are the only real mainstays that you're going to have at that position on the offensive line whose jobs aren't in jeopardy in any way.
That's who I was thinking about before. Like, we're going to, after the commercial break we're about to take, we're going to get into our first rounders, who we want. And I think we're going to be able to get a center. I don't think a center goes in the first round. I think we're going to be able to get him in like possibly like the third round. Yeah. And they like Ben Bredesen playing the center position. They do like him on the offensive line, and he did play pretty well for us. And I think at the guard, what you were saying, John, before, I think the rookie Izudu, before he got hurt, Eazy was playing great there. So I think he slides back in the left guard position. So
I could see that. I know from watching the game tape and listening to the breakdowns and stuff like that. One of the big things was Izudu was he's a gorilla when it comes to the run game. He was just decking motherfuckers, but he's also wasn't polished in any way. I mean, you can't expect the third round pick to come out of in their first season and be a polished vet at that point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you'd like to see a little bit more promise from a guy. But in the run game, the way he was just mowing people over, you got to be excited with, Saquon still being on the team and, Breida still being on the team and Daniel Jones' running ability. You got to be excited for a guy to have another year under his belt, an actual NFL offseason to kind of hone his craft some. There's reasons to be excited about Izudu for sure, Mike. You're absolutely right.
Jules, listen, I am, I'm totally convinced that we're going to take some sort of interior offensive lineman within the first 3 rounds. So that's why, I go back to saying when I said it's going to be an open competition. They're not going to overlook this. They know they're going to have to make some sort of pick. It might not be the first, might not even be in the second round, but definitely within the first 3 rounds, I think some sort of interior lineman is definitely going to be drafted, and they're going to be right in there to compete for day one for a job as well. So that's why I said it's going to be interesting when camp comes around for the season for sure.
I do like the depth we got finally on the offensive line, because it's nice to actually talk about competition for once with that line, which is a great thing.
It's nice to not talk about offensive line being the reason why a season goes nowhere. That's what's nice for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back with who we want, each of us, at the first round pick, number 25 overall for the New York Giants. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back on the Big Blue Offensive Podcast. I'm Mike. That's Jules. That's John. All right, Jules, let's go to you, man. Let's see who you want for the Giants to take number 25 overall, or maybe a trade up, trade back. I don't know. I'll let you decide. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen? What do you want?
If we could trade up, right? And obviously we're not trading on many spots, but a few. I guess that Quentin Johnson kid from TCU is definitely someone worth trading.
My man. Yo, Jules, take it away. That's who I want. That's who I want.
All
What
right,
position is this?
that's one kid that I think is the most polished receiver in this class. Do I like a few other names? Absolutely. There's no question about it. But I think he is the number one, hands down. He is the best one coming in this year's draft. And if he falls and he's somewhere sitting around like 19, 20, and we have an opportunity to move up, it's definitely worth exploring and definitely worth making a move for. And that's in a trade up scenario. So if we want to stick with that first, let's go around the horn here and we talk about trading up from that part.
What was the player position that you said?
Wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, TCU.
Quentin John. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested in going with a wide receiver as well in the first round. I don't know that we should be trading up unless it's a reasonable deal. If it's just a mid-round pick or two, then maybe that's a different story. I'm a little bit squeamish about trading up too far in the first round. I feel like those picks Joe Shane has shown that he can find talent later on mid-draft and maybe even later in the draft. So I'd like to give as many at-bats as possible.
We got a lot of them though, John. We do have a lot of them. Sign all of them. It's like 11 of them.
That's true. If it works out where it's reasonable and we can get somebody like that, then I'm all for it for sure. But generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, I would like to stick where we are and kind of get what we can get, the best player we can get at that spot. Maybe trade up later on the second round or something like that.
Who would you want then at 25 if we're staying?
Well, I did a few different I did more than a few different mock drafts just to fuck around and see, who is falling to us. I gotta say, it's far more difficult to just on the floor, Nancy. It's far more difficult to follow the draft and all that stuff because the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been, we've been picking so early that like all you really had to focus on was like the top 10 or 12 names, and it was almost a guarantee that you're going to get one of those guys, with the exception of trading back for Tony a couple of years back. So now it's like, am I really going to fucking pay attention to 45, 50 names that could potentially go in the first round? I don't know. So I did a handful of mock drafts, and at first I was really interested in Zay Flowers because he had 12 touchdowns and fucking however many 12 games last year. He had 13.8 yards per reception. He had 17 and 16.2 and 21 and 20 respectively. So obviously he can get down the field. Then I was informed that he's only 5'9". And with the cast of characters we have in that wide receiver room, that made me definitely pivot some, because you got Wandale, you got Sterling Shepard, you have these guys that aren't, Paris Campbell, that aren't particularly big-bodied receivers.
They're like the Oompa Loompas. They're all fucking like little bitches.
They're all Smurfs, which is fine. Like, that's not going to prevent you from, making, that's not, a tall wide receiver is not the key to winning a Super Bowl. But I think that building your wide receiver room much in the same way that you could build like a basketball team where you have different types, you got your fucking forward, you got your centers and stuff like that, different height, different this and different that. I would like to see a little bit of a bigger guy. I don't care if he's 6'5". So at first it was Jalen Hyatt that I was looking at, Zay Flowers. But I wouldn't be super disappointed if we get Jalen Hyatt, even if we maybe trade back a few picks and we can still get him maybe late 20s. And then that'll give us a little capital and maybe move up in the second round to get a cornerback or get an interior offensive lineman. I wouldn't be upset about that at all.
Well, Quentin Johnson's like what, Jules? Like he's like 6'5", right? He's like, I think they compare him to Julio Jones. They're comparing him to Julio Jones. Quentin Johnson. And so
chances are he doesn't make it past Tennessee at 11. But I mean, he's the real deal. He's the one that if I remember seeing, like, I don't know, a couple weeks back that they were saying that he might fall to 25. And I was like, yeah, okay. Look at that shit. He's 6'3", by the way. 6'3", 216.
So that's big enough to check that box. Well, 6'1", 6'2", but 6'3" to 6'5", that's where you're going to be finding your skyscrapers, as our boy Paulie Latino would say.
You never know who falls. We always see guys falling in the draft, and maybe we get a late run on wide receivers where they don't go until later on in the first round, which might surprise a lot of people. So, Jules, you stole him, man. I was gonna go. I was all about him, but I still got like two other guys that
I got a couple other names too that I got to throw out there. But Mike, come on, we haven't heard from you yet, so Let's hear 1B from you.
All right, I'm gonna throw a little shocker out there. This guy plays another defensive end. You know how we love our defensive ends, but he also plays. He could play an outside linebacker position. This is if we stay at 25? Nolan Smith from Georgia. We do like our defensive players from Georgia. I think he's got speed from the outside edge position, and for an outside linebacker, that's because that's what you want, especially in Wink's defense, where he could just come off the edge fast, get to the quarterback, and he's decent in coverage. Probably needs to get stronger, like every other rookie that needs to get in the NFL, but he has that speed. So if we stay there, I can see the Giants doing it. It might piss off a lot of people, a lot of Giants fans, because, oh, we need a center, we need a quarterback, we need a wide receiver. But let me tell you something. I think the centers go in like the third round because a lot of these centers are kind of like the same player. And I know everybody wants a center. We want to shore up that position, but I think we could get a decent center in the third round that we don't really have to rush. And maybe he starts to play like towards the end of next season, which might be a good thing for the Giants. So I'm going to go right there. I got another guy, but I like Nolan Smith a lot.
And just to come back with that too, like, look, most of these offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen, aren't first round picks. You're not going to sit there and look at like, the Kansas City Chiefs who just won the Super Bowl and say that every one of their interior offensive linemen were drafted in rounds 1 and 2 because they weren't, right? So they are good interior linemen that get drafted in rounds 3 and 4 and develop a little bit because they go after all the other bigger players in rounds 1 and 2 in the NFL. It's just what they do. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, linebackers, edge rushers, defensive tackles, they go first. That's just how the fucking league is built, offensive tackles. So when you go through that, that's already 64 different fucking position players that are drafted between all those positions. And then these centers start to go. Maybe 1 or 2 sneak in. So waiting till the third round does not worry me at all one bit, right? And you know what? I just want to stick with the wide receivers because I do believe that this cornerback class is deep. And I do believe that we are probably going to go defense in the second round like we've been doing over the last few seasons. Even though last year we didn't, we took a wide receiver, I get it. And it was a lot more Gettleman doing that in the second round versus what we've been doing here currently under the new regime. But I do think that this year we're going to see a second round defensive pick unless, and this is the big unless one of these top corners slip. And I know there's a name being tossed around there in Ringo. I know he was going to be one of the top 3 corners in the league, to be coming in the draft. And then injuries, a couple of things kind of plagued him. And now he's dropping down. I don't know what the feel is for him. But let's just stick with what I've been saying, where I think we go wide receiver. And, it's funny that you mentioned Hyatt because the Giants did bring him in. He is training. They talked to Hooker. So like they are really looking at Hyatt. That's a real possibility there. I know people like to pick up Zay Flowers and they think he's going to be the next Steve Smith Jr. We shall see, okay? And let's not forget Steve Smith Jr. I don't think that got drafted until round 3 or later. All right. But now we're thinking about taking him late in round 1. But again, the guy that I like the most outside of Quentin Johnson that I think is relative to who we may be able to get at 25 is Jordan Addison. I can't say enough about this guy, okay? He reminds me of what Devonta Smith was in college, okay? We missed out on him. He has an opportunity to bring that kind of style player in. And who was he compared to? One of my favorite all-time receivers in Marvin Harrison, excuse me.
Marvin Harrison, yeah.
I love Marvin Harrison. He was one of my favorite wide receivers as I was watching, outside of any kind of Giants football. Love that kind of style of play. Dude was a beast in Pitt and decided to transfer over to USC. It was nasty there too. So the kid's done it on multiple coasts, multiple different teams. Like he's proven it over and over again. He's one of those kind of guys that are going to get slept on for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because of his frame, his size, whatever you want to put it out there. But that kid could be a fucking beast. And if he goes in number 25 on draft day, I will be a fucking happy ass camper for damn sure. But I also have a different scenario coming up in a bit because, like I said, I think we're definitely going to go defense in the second round. We have a corner. I mean, does Jack Campbell last to late in the second round next week?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Linebacker, right?
Linebacker that we might be able to get in the second round there. So there's different things that are going on on the other part of the draft where we could get one of these top wide receivers. And I think Addison would be one of those guys. But I do have a crazy scenario that I'll bring up after we go around here. What might make some sense to what this draft could do as well.
Well, next week we're going to go into the later rounds 2 through the end, and we'll give our opinions on who we want in the later rounds, next week on the podcast. But, getting back to the wide receivers, You know, Jules, I was thinking about this before. Like, everybody wants that tall wide receiver, that Plaxico Burress that could go up and get it. But the way the NFL now, like with the speed and how they design guys to get open, all these receivers are fucking little. Like, listen, Tyreek Hill, he's a little fucking guy. He just got the speed. So maybe if we got to have a bunch of like Oompa Loompas on the Giants and just fucking run the ball, catch and get open, listen, I'll be all for it if you get one of these guys like an Addison.
Yeah, but when you go through the list of all the top receivers, they're all at least 6 feet. They're all right around that 5'11"
right there.
foot where Addison fits in perfectly, right? You look at Stephon Diggs, he's right around 6 feet. You look at any other stuff like Jamar Chase, we like dude's a beast. Cooper Kupp's like 6'2". You still have some big guys that are out there.
Still
playing,
some.
So they definitely don't sleep on that part. But like I said, this kid Addison, I think is legit. I think he's definitely going to be one of those guys that could be floating around there. I want to stay away from Zay Flowers. Look, he could be the next Steve Smith. He could be fucking nasty. He could make me eat shit like I had to with Jalen Waddle, and I talk so much smoke about him. All right, so I eat crow when I have to, right? Like, and I also fucking pound myself on the back when I get the shit right too. So when Waddle on this stuff, right? That kid's adorable, and he's been tearing it up in the league for the last couple of years. So he could be like that. He absolutely could, Zay Flowers. But let's also figure that Waddle played at Alabama, where Flowers played for Boston College the last few seasons. So there's a huge difference in competition and drop off there. I saw a lot of his highlights. Some of the highlights were going against some really whacked out shitty teams. So it's just like, dude, I know. I actually trust with him and on the level of competition that he could translate into an actual first round pick. So that's just how I feel. I mean, I know he's got some return specialists, but to me, to be quite honest, I almost see Kadarius Toney, but a smarter player, right?
Everybody's smarter than him.
Yeah.
Let's not,
exactly.
It's not
definitely probably more determined to make an impact on his team. So I don't want to take that part away from a skill set perspective. It reminds me of a Kadarius Toney at this point in time.
All right, let's stop talking about him. I'll give you guys my last guy. I already had 3 guys I wanted 25. This might shock everybody, but I've been talking about him for a while. It's the Notre Dame kid, Michael Mayer, the tight end. Listen, I know we got Bellinger. I know we got Waller, but remember, his contract is not guaranteed. You know what I mean? He could just go right off the books and be gone. I like the idea of Michael Mayer, especially because Dallas is right behind us. And Dallas needs a tight end. If Michael Mayer's there at 25, I want the kid out of Notre Dame. And because we could run 2 tight end sets, we can have these speedy wide receivers who we already talked about. Then we could throw Waller out as a wide receiver because my man's like 6'5". Then you got, Mayer 6'4", Bellinger 6'3". These are big guys that could go out and get the football. I would love for the Giants to get this kid. If he fucking lasts to 25, that's the guy I want the most. I know people criticize him. We go, what are you going to do with 3 tight ends? You never know, man. You never know in football. I'm sure Coach Stable will figure it out if we get a talent like him. I mean, this dude eats up the middle of the field. I mean, that's what Dallas wants. Dallas wants that guy because all over the middle of the field, Dallas tight ends been killing us. I don't want them to have him. I want us to have him.
What's funny, Mike, is that I feel like you and I are almost playing tennis here. We're going back and forth with this to perfection in a sense, because literally the next pick that I was bringing up was going to be something to block Dallas, right? With Dallas literally sitting right behind us without them trading up. And let's not forget, they just signed Brandon Cooks. So they kind of beefed up their wide receiving core right now, right? That's going to be interesting because they might have went out and decided that they're not going to be too concerned about the tight end. They might get a tight end later on in the draft because they're going to they have their wide receivers. They're going to kind of go old school and they'll develop these guys. Listen, Dalton Schultz wasn't a first round fucking pick. They had Jay Novacek wasn't a first round pick. I go through all the guys. Jason Witten wasn't a first round pick. They've gotten these tight ends and they develop them. And they step it up when now they have this crazy ass wide receiving core with Cooks and the rest of the fucking crew over there. And the thing that worries me more is that I keep seeing Bijan Robinson slipping down. Ezekiel Elliott's gone, dude. You're not going to tell me that fucking 4th or 5th round Tony Pollard is going to be the featured fucking back in Dallas. No fucking shot in hell. All right, all you fucking fantasy people that are out there listening, if you really think that Tony Pollard's a top 10 running back right now, I wish we could fucking draft today before the draft in the NFL actually takes place because Tony Pollard's not going to be a fucking top 10 running back. Dallas didn't let go of Ezekiel Elliott because they think they're going to fucking make this kid the fucking featured running back. Hell to the fucking on. If they do, fuck it. I'm even happy a Giants fan. And that's what scares me there. Because if we're sitting there and Bijan Robinson, who by far is the best running back in this class, okay? With the exception of a couple others, but I really feel he's above and beyond at that point. And if you want to stick with talking shit about fantasy football, these quote-unquote experts already have Bijan as a top 10 running back for fantasy. And we haven't even done the fucking draft in the NFL yet. We don't even know what team this guy's going to end up on, all right? That's how special this kid is. You can look it up on Fantasy Pros. They already got him hopped up in the top 10 of running backs, right? Not overall or anything like that when you look at the actual running backs. That's how big this kid is. With that in mind, and knowing that all Barkley is not even signed officially. He's even like he's not happy, and you got Dallas sitting there, and this kid's sitting there. You might have to take him as a Giant, just because you do not want to have this kid run against you
Jules,
for the next 5 years.
Jules, I think he's gone at 18 with
Probably.
the Lions.
I can see
with
him
the Lions.
For sure.
Lions could take him at 18.
Right. They need some definite help there. There's a couple of teams that can definitely use a running back. I mean, for certainty. But like I said, because when you look at these mock drafts, especially if you're using like the PFF one now, I see fucking Bijan Robinson sitting at 25 almost every fucking time I do a simulated draft. And I've done a few of them already, at least a few dozen. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. So that kid's there, and I know I skip and I let him go, and then he goes to Dallas. I do not want this kid running against us twice a year for the next 5 years, guaranteed.
Fuck Dallas, bro.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but it kind of what Mike was saying. Whereas, if we're doing something to block them, you know what? Let them get that fucking kid from Notre Dame, the tight end. Fuck it. Let Dak then have to decide who he's throwing the fucking football to, because that's always been his problem. That's why he led the league in interceptions last year, or at least the NFC, right? So I got no problem with that. But you could tell you got a workhorse running back there with Tony Pollard now. That could be that little scat back that breaks it up, and you don't have fucking Ezekiel Elliott pounding the fucking line anymore. So when Pollard comes in, he's all fresh and he looks amazing. Yeah, listen to it the whole fucking time. Yeah, let's see him 17 games. He's running into that fucking defensive line.
I agree with John. Fuck Dallas. Actually, we're gonna wrap this show up, but let's real quick before we wrap it up, I want to ask you guys a question. I want to see what team worries you guys the most of trading up ahead of us to get a guy. I'll give you mine. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think they need a wide receiver. And if we're targeting somebody at 25, they're at like 31, whatever the fuck they're at. I got a feeling they're the team to watch to trade up to get a guy, because don't forget, they got Tony and they got fucking Richie James. So it's like, I mean, at Juju, I guess. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to need a wide receiver soon. So that's a team that definitely worries me about them jumping ahead of us.
I don't really know. I don't really have a team that I'm like nervous about jumping up, just because of the fact that, and it's really my fault, I don't have enough of a basis of knowledge of guys are going to be in our part of the draft that are going to be long-term disappointments if we don't get them. When you're picking fourth, you're picking sixth, you're picking eighth, like there's guys up there that are really high on the wish list that people can trade up, will more likely trade up for, and it'll be a much bigger impact long-term for the franchise. And I just don't know. I don't feel that's that same kind of worry later on in the draft. So I don't really have a specific answer, except I would say watching Dallas trade up ahead of us, just because of the fact that it's Dallas. That's the only one that I could really foresee being that,
because they're right behind us.
They're right behind us. It won't take a lot for them to trade ahead of us. And whatever they end up doing will be affecting us, like Jules said, for the next 5 years at least. So that's what would scare me, but not a particular player that I would miss out on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and you know what? I've seen some, mock possibility drafts and everything else where we actually did trade with Kansas City. So Kansas City really doesn't worry me as much, where I see the Giants drop back to 32, Kansas City jump up. I think I sold my fucking, showed my hand earlier when I was fucking going bananas about Bijan Robinson. Clearly it's Dallas. Right? Like I'm already starting to get that like sort of like just like bad gut feeling that I had, after seeing fucking the Cowboys and the Eagles fucking trade with each other so that the fucking Eagles could jump up and get Devonta Smith, and then they end up fucking
I can't believe that was 2 drafts ago. That was 2 drafts ago. It seems like yesterday. It's crazy.
For real. Right. We're literally about to have a 3rd draft since then, right? Like, it's crazy. But like, it just sits in my stomach with so much fucking like it's just there and it hurts because like we lose Devonta Smith and then we move and then they get Parsons with Dallas, and it's like, it's like the 2 of them conspired to just fuck the New York Giants with that fucking move a couple seasons ago. So that shit still haunts me. They're literally sitting right behind us. So it's like you can just feel them breathing on your neck. So yeah, without a fucking doubt, it's the Cowboys being there at 26 and them knowing that they need positions at tight end, and they could probably use a corner. They could definitely use a fucking, a couple of guys on D and obviously the running back. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's gonna be a fun night coming up in a couple of weeks for certainty. It always is. It's gonna be very interesting to see what we do and how we maneuver things. And again, it goes back to what I've been saying, and I know we've all kind of agreed upon it with the last few weeks, is that we're in a position where we don't have to sort of feel forced like we did the last couple of years, where it was like, oh, we got to take a tackle. Oh, we got to take a rush guy. We got to do this, right? We don't have to do that. If the real good one of these top wide receivers are there that we like, take them. If one of these fucking top corners are there, take them. If there's a fucking edge guy that falls and shouldn't have been there, fucking take them. We'll move these guys around. We'll find a place to play them. You know what I mean?
Agree.
So
Yeah.
like, I think that's what's kind of on our side in that regard, which does kind of take away from us trading up, because like I said, unless, Quentin Johnson is still there hanging around at like 18, 19, which I highly fucking doubt.
That'd be nice.
I don't see us making a move up for that kid either. He's going to be fucking long gone. I think he's gone. He might not even make the teams. All right. So like, let's just put that there. He's probably the first wide receiver off the board, but that's, a whole other discussion for another day. So for me, like I said, and like I said, it's going to be very interesting on draft night. If Bijan Robinson is sitting there at 25, you know what, man, that's going to be very, very fucking interesting. And you know what? We could, here's a way to flip it real fast and kind of end on a positive note. Maybe we flip it to a point where we get Dallas to trade up with us, right? You know what I mean? We're like, fuck it, we're going to take them when you want them.
I'll jump off.
You better give us some real fucking real estate.
I'll jump off the GW if that happens. Disgusting. Blasphemy.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, blasphemy. I don't want to put Dallas in a position where they hold us, basically hold it over our head that we traded out of a position with them specifically, and then that player ends up fucking wreaking havoc on us for however many years down the line. Fucking Michael Parsons got drafted by them, and they traded up with the Eagles, and now Parsons not only is fucking wrecking the Eagles, but unfortunately us as well. So I don't.
Yeah, but they got Devonta Smith.
Like
that if it wasn't for AJ Brown, he would be the man there. The guy had 100+ catches last year on the Eagles. Like, everybody fucking puts that to the side just because AJ Brown had double-digit touchdowns and shit.
Right, that's what it
Miles
is.
Sanders had the season he had, and they were off and running and went to the Super Bowl. But he had 100 fucking receptions last year. 100, just like Marvin Harrison. That's why I like Jordan Addison. Heard it first.
Can we stop talking about the Eagles and Dallas and talk about our draft night special coming up in a couple weeks, where we're gonna introduce a new logo. Some of the shirts with the new logo I already sent out to people. So some people actually already got it. Guys, I got to send it out to you guys. You got to let me know how many shirts exactly you want. Draft night's going to be special. I can't wait. We might actually go live if I figure it out. If somebody want to tell me how do I go live, we'll go live. It'll be a fun night, man.
Well, that's one thing too. Listening, everyone out there listening, you know what? If you know a way to get it set up where we go live, you have some experience with that, send in some requests there. Put it in there. If you can help us get on there and go live, come on the show. We'd love to have you on. We'll give you away some t-shirts and some other giveaways. We're gonna make it fun. It's gonna be the 100th episode. New logo, another draft night. We actually get to sit around this time and wait for the Giants to fucking actually pick. Not fucking get it over with in the first 25 minutes of the fucking show, and then it's over. And now we're just hanging around like a bunch of drunken idiots. We'll be drunken idiots before the Giants pick. It's gonna be fucking awesome. So yeah, we're gonna have that coming up. We got another show in between to make it the 99th show. So we're gonna get that one going. Maybe bring a couple people on for the 99th just to get it pumped up for the 100th. But yeah, you know what? Before you know it, it's already draft day, and that's how it always goes. We get to the playoffs, we get Super Bowl, then it's a little bit of this off season, you get the draft. Then before you know, you start talking about mini camp and training camp and this camp and that camp. Summer's here, summer flies by like everything
Summer's
else
here.
does, and the season's here. So to me, you know what? We got baseball in between, but before you know, the NFL will be kicking off its NFL season for 2023. It's just like that. And let's not forget, the Big Blue Offensive will definitely be in Buffalo this year. So you fucking Bills Mafia motherfuckers better be ready because we're coming up this year. That's it.
With that,
Listen, with all that said, we got a lot going on. Tune in, new logos. We want to go live for this fucking draft. We're going to have tons of people coming in. It's going to be one to watch, one to be fun with. And listen, be good, be safe. Let's keep our ears to the fucking thing. I doubt too much news breaks before next week, but we'll be back next week for sure to kick off the 99th episode and then 100 for draft night. We'll see you guys then. Peace.
Peace.
Go
Go
Giants.
Giants.